Welcome to the program. Again, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Leaders Summit has concluded in Melbourne, Australia. The meeting was hosted by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to celebrate 50 years since his country became the organization's first external partner, as well as advancing Australia-ASEAN collaboration. Mr. Albanese stressed the importance of regional peace and prosperity, highlighting the strengthening partnership between ASEAN and Australia.
Together we achieved a great deal of agreement today, all of it built on our shared understanding that the Asean-Australia partnership has never been stronger or more important to the peace, stability and prosperity of our region. ASEAN itself is a powerful force for regional stability because, as all of us acknowledge, peace is the essential precondition for prosperity. For our region to flourish and for our people to succeed into the future, we must continue to preserve that peace and security through the rules and rights that uphold the sovereignty of all nations and the dignity of every individual. As a group, the countries of ASEAN are expected to be the world's fourth largest economy by 2040. But Australia's foreign direct investment into ASEAN equals only a little over 3% of where we invest overseas. To be truly engaged, to be a partner and a participant in this growth and success, Australia needs to be invested. And the Southeast Asia Economic Strategy is our blueprint for doing just that. That is why I announced yesterday that Australia is establishing a $2 billion Southeast Asia investment financing facility to catalyse greater Australian investment in Southeast Asia. The vision statement and the Melbourne Declaration that we issued today speak to our strong consensus and a shared sense of purpose. Together we have every reason to be optimistic for the future security of our region, for the future prosperity of our economies, for the future success of our citizens, and for the future strength of our comprehensive strategic partnership in the decades ahead. Thank you very much.
To the breakdown of law and order now. In Haiti, armed gangs have been setting fire to police stations in the capital, Port-au-Prince, hoping to cause Prime Minister Ariel Henry to step down. Authorities say over 20 buildings have been torched in the latest unrest. At least 6 police officers have died, while the National Police Academy has been destroyed. The gangs in the violence racked the city, stepping up their attacks when Mr. Henry left for a regional summit last week. The unrest has paralyzed air traffic, which has prevented his return. Mr. Henry attempted to fly back to Port-au-Prince on Tuesday, but ended up in the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico instead. He could not land at the Haitian capital because its international airport was closed as soldiers repelled attempts by gunmen to seize it. Civil aviation authorities in the neighboring Dominican Republic also turned the Prime Minister's plane away, saying they had not been provided with necessary flight plan. Meanwhile, the United States says it's not putting pressure on Prime Minister Ariel Henry to step down amid the fresh wave of violence and the soaring instability in Haiti. Thousands have had to flee the Caribbean nation after gang leaders warned there will be civil war and genocide if the Prime Minister does not resign. Speaking at a news conference in Washington, U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller says the U.S. is not pushing for Mr. Henry's resignation. However, Mr. Henry says the U.S. is urging the Prime Minister to expedite the transition to an empowered and inclusive governance structure that will move with urgency to help the country prepare for a multinational security support mission. That mission, which has the backing of the United Nations, has been installed for months, but will address the security situation and pave the way for free and fair elections in Haiti. Meanwhile, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has described the situation in Haiti as beyond untenable. In other news regarding the United States, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says U.S. weapons in Ukraine have not only saved lives, but they've also kept troops going and created jobs domestically. He was speaking at a meeting of the President's Competition Council in Washington. The Biden administration is currently attempting to convince Congress to pass more funding packages for Ukraine after Republicans blocked previous attempts. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been rallying for extra support in his country's fight against Russia's aggression, saying Kyiv cannot win without it.
Our security assistance has kept the Ukrainians in the fight and saved lives. And it's also strengthened our economy. These investments have expanded facilities and created jobs for American workers. And the weapons that we've sent to Ukraine to help defend itself are made in America by American workers nationwide, from Texas to Ohio to Arizona.
Meanwhile, the White House is warning that inaction from Congress could lead to dire consequences for Ukraine. Republicans are still debating and obstructing the aid package, which contains support for Kyiv. Moscow launched a military offensive in Ukraine in late February 2022 after announcing the independence of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics. It also demanded Ukraine declare itself officially neutral and refrain from joining NATO.
The big four were here just last week. The CIA director was in the room, and he laid out the dire consequences for Ukraine. Look, we have to stand up for, just like the brave Ukrainians are standing up for democracy, we have to do the same. It also speaks to our own national security. We see that Ukraine is losing ground in the battlefield right now, and we believe it's because of Congress's inaction, right? And so it does matter. It does matter if we take action or not. It does matter that if we get this national security supplemental done or not. It does.
Crisis to another. Now, South African Minister of Foreign Affairs Naledi Pandor says Israel has ignored the provisional measures order by the International Court of Justice. She said this during discussion of South Africa's ongoing ICJ genocide case against Israel during a panel at the Beitar Noor Center in Johannesburg. Israel submitted a report to the ICJ on February 26th, highlighting what it said was compliance with the country's order in January to enable the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Ms. Pandor says Johannesburg is preparing a response to the report. She also discussed the recent calls for Security Council reform, as some leaders have criticized the UN body for only serving the interests of its 5 permanent members. This comes after the United States vetoed an Arab-backed UN resolution for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip on February 20, marking the 3rd such veto of the resolution.
When we sat there in The Hague, feeling in my heart was, for the first time, Israel's impunity is visible to the world. You know that Israel has ignored the provisional measures. They've submitted the report. That's the only part they've acted on. We are preparing a response to their report. I don't have to tell you what it is. You can guess what's happening there. But the court has reiterated that Israel has a legal obligation as a state party to the convention to act on what the court has set out. The merits would go into the key issues of whether there is indeed genocide. And it's clear. If I deny you food, if I deny you water, if I deny you energy, my intention is to kill you. If I tell you move to point B, and as you move I kill you, my intention is to wipe you out.
Meanwhile, the United Arab Emirates and Egypt have dropped the third batch of humanitarian relief by air to the people of northern Gaza. The aid contained 38 tons of food and medical supplies, bringing the total amount of aid dropped since the launch of Operation Birds of Goodness to 116 tons. A Birds of Goodness operation comes within the framework of the Gentleman Knight Humanitarian Operation 3, which was based on the orders of the President of the UAE, Sheikh Mohammed Al Nahyan. And the U.S. military Central Command has condemned a Houthi missile strike on a cargo ship that killed 3 crew members, the first deaths caused by the group's attack on merchant vessels. The Barbados flag True Confidence was abandoned after Wednesday's attack, which inflicted significant damage. 2 of the sailors who died were Filipinos, the other was Vietnamese. Hours after the attack, U.S. forces conducted strikes on 2 unmanned aerial vehicles in Yemen, which CENTCOM said presented an imminent threat to U.S. Navy ships in the region.
Degrade. I think that it was sadly inevitable. The Houthis have continued to launch these reckless attacks with no regard for the well-being of innocent civilians who are transiting through the Red Sea, and now they have unfortunately and tragically killed innocent civilians. And so the United States will continue to hold the Houthis accountable for their attacks, which have not just disrupted international commerce, not just disrupted the freedom of navigation in international waters, and not just endangered seafarers, but now tragically killed a number of them. So we will continue to hold them accountable, and we call on governments around the world to do the same. That this is going to be a long-term process, both to deter the Houthi attacks and to degrade their capabilities to carry them out. And that's a process that is continuing. At the same time, we continue to talk to partners in the region about how they ought to make clear to the Houthis that these attacks are irresponsible, that they endanger international commerce, and that they hurt the economies of countries in the region as well as countries around the world. So it's something that we will continue to push, not just on behalf of the United States, but on behalf of the coalition that we have assembled to oppose the Houthis' actions and again, to collaborate with other countries in the world who share those interests.
Any concerns or any comments about?
5 people have been killed, 2 others injured after a private aircraft with 7 people aboard crashed into a tree in Burkina Faso's eastern region. Officials say the plane failed to take off successfully from a local airport in the city of Diapaga en route to the city of Fada Nguma when it ended up in a tree. The 2 injured people are currently receiving treatment at a health facility, and authorities have begun investigation into the crash. The Diapaga-Fada Ngoma route has been difficult to access in recent years because of the security crisis in the area and other parts of Burkina Faso, but about half of which is outside of government control because of jihadi groups which have ravaged the landlocked nation for years. Senegal's government has announced a new date for its presidential election. Polls will now take place on March 24th, just a week to the end of the current president Macky Sall's exit from office. The announcement follows tension in the country after the president postponed elections last month, sparking widespread protests. Mr. Sall, whose opponents accuse him of mounting a constitutional coup, insists he has not intended to run for a 3rd term in office. Senegal has had a reputation of one of the most stable democracies in Africa. It's the only country in the mainland West Africa that has never had a military coup. Prior to Wednesday's announcement, authorities had attempted to postpone elections to December, but the Constitutional Council put a stop to that, labeling it unconstitutional. Thousands of people flocked to the Koforidua Sports Stadium in Ghana, celebrating the country's 67th Independence Day on Wednesday. President Nana Akufo-Addo waved to the crowd from the back of a car and lighting a ceremonial torch, while performers in traditional clothing were seen beating drums and marching in a vibrant parade. This year's Independence Day parade was held under the slogan, "Our Democracy, Our Pride," aimed at reinforcing democratic values and promoting peace, particularly in anticipation of upcoming general elections. The occasion was graced by esteemed dignitaries, including Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara, who was welcomed as a special guest of honor. March 6 is celebrated as a national holiday in Ghana and marks the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which saw the West African nation break away from 83 years of British colonial rule. And we're back to one of our lead stories today, which is the situation in Haiti, breakdown of law and order, especially in the capital, Port-au-Prince. Armed gangs have been setting fire to police stations in the capital. The Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, is yet to return to the country. He's said to be in Puerto Rico, where he landed Tuesday evening because he could not get into the country as gang groups had taken over the international airport. The gangs have raked the city, which Prime Minister Henry left just a few days ago to attend a summit in Kenya, which discussed the deployment of a multinational force to Haiti to help with law and order in the country. Let's bring in now partner at Adome Advisory Group, PLLC, in the United States, Joanna LeBlanc. She's also a former foreign policy advisor to the Haiti government and senior staffer at the U.S. Congress. Joanna, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you so much for having me, Amarachi. Always a pleasure.
Yes, and I was going to accredit you as the Prime Minister or the Foreign Minister. I apologize. That's not you, not yet. But security in Haiti has worsened, Joanne, and I'm sure you're hearing news from back home about what's currently going on. Why have these armed groups grown even stronger to the point where they're now in control of the capital, Port-au-Prince?
Yeah, what you're seeing, Amarachi, is a manifestation of ongoing challenges in the Republic of Haiti, let's say for the past 5 years plus. The economy in Haiti is essentially a failed economy. There's more than 60% unemployment in the country currently. Inflation is through the roof. There is lack of governance, unfortunately. And as you know, the president of the Republic of Haiti was assassinated roughly 2 years ago. And so that has left a power vacuum. You only have Ariel Henry, who was appointed, who's not an elected official. He was appointed by the president, although he was not confirmed by the parliament because the president had already been assassinated, but he was appointed by the president to serve as prime minister. And right now there are no legislators in the country, no elected official whatsoever. So the people are fed up with the lack of progress the country has made over the past 5 years. People don't see hope. They're not able to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. You have huge displacement of women and girls because their homes have been burnt down by these various gangs. So the situation on the ground currently is dire, but it's a manifestation of a much bigger issue.
What is the bigger issue, Joanna? Prime Minister Ariel Henry has not conducted elections. You just rightly mentioned that he was appointed Prime Minister shortly after Moise's death. There was a small political crisis surrounding that. Who was supposed to be, Prime Minister? I think there was somebody else who was supposed to have been appointed. But the reason Henry was appointed was because he had been chosen by the late president, I think, if my memory serves me right, was appointed by the late president before his death. So why has it been difficult for him to conduct elections in the country? Because that was one of the main reasons why, he was given that position.
Yeah, so Prime Minister Ariel Henry is very unpopular in the country. And just about every sector has asked for him to step down from office. The civil society, private sector, the voodoo sector, the religious sector, the youth, they have all asked him to step down because they don't have the confidence that he is able to actually govern the country. And what we have seen since Prime Minister Ariel Henry has been in power is that there has definitely been a decline in the quality of life of the people of Haiti. But the issue is much bigger than Ariel Henry, because issues, for example, you look at the way that U.S. policy and foreign policy in general has impacted the country's ability to develop. It's very concerning. You have the 1914 occupation by the U.S. government, which lasted for about 30 years or so, 20 years or so, was a failed intervention. And then you have the UN that came into the country after the earthquake that killed thousands of people, where people died from cholera, but yet there has been no compensation for the harm that was done. And then you have, under President Bill Clinton, there was a policy that pretty much gave preference to the rice sector in Arkansas to provide rice to the Republic of Haiti, completely decimated the rice sector and the agriculture sector in the Republic of Haiti. So what you're seeing is, again, a manifestation of a much broader issue, the foreign policy coming out of Washington that have undermined the country's development. And also, unfortunately, we have to be honest, some of the government in Haiti that have been selected or elected have not really served in the best interest of the people of Haiti.
Yeah, if you do look at the history, it does appear the leadership has helped in impoverishing the people of Haiti. So, Joanna, who is running the country right now with Ariel Henry away? And could we say the armed gangs are in charge of Haiti at the moment?
Well, technically, the Minister of Finance is in charge of the country in the absence of Prime Minister Ariel Henry, who, by the way, is not able to return to the country because the airport in Haiti, in Port-au-Prince, has been taken over by these armed groups. They've essentially said if Prime Minister Ariel Henry were to come back into the country, there will be essentially a civil war. So the plane cannot land at the airport in Port-au-Prince for him to return to the country. So even though the finance minister is technically in control of the country in the absence of the prime minister, but really the people who are really in control right now are these armed groups. So the international community will have to talk to them, to negotiate with them, because they are in control right now and they're not allowing anything to happen without their consent. Just like we see sometimes in Chicago, in Detroit, with United States, there's a large gang problem, and we will see the mayor and the governor negotiate with these gangs to bring about some peace. Well, in this case, we have to apply the same kind of measure because they have the support of the people to a certain extent, and we have to also have to understand these gangs are even more powerful than members of the Haitian National Police because they have weapons coming in primarily from South Florida, as well as other parts of the region, and they have outnumbered the Haitian National Police.
Isn't it interesting, Joanna, that, it appears that, when there is crisis in, in these Caribbean countries, these countries around that have some link to America, it's so easy for them to run to the U.S. After President Moise's death, his wife, who has now been accused of being a conspirator, in his death, also was able to get to the U.S. State of Florida, where she had some medical treatment and all of that. Isn't it interesting that, they're able to make their way to the U.S., when there's crisis in their countries, especially for Haiti? Isn't there some restriction or, some process that has to go into vetting these people who come into the U.S. We're taking sanctuary in the country, and then the U.S. comes up and says it's not putting pressure on President Henry. It is asking him, however, to expedite action on election. That kind of sounds like pressure, though. But tell us about how easy it is for them to actually make the move.
Yeah, so the people of Haiti have been calling for Prime Minister Ariel Henry to step down for almost 2 years now. So has a number of elected officials, Haitian American elected officials in America, as well as numerous members of Congress here in the United States. And in fact, when I worked on Capitol Hill as a senior congressional staffer, my boss led a letter asking, which was signed by at least 20 to 30 members, asking for Prime Minister Ariel Henry to step down because of the lack of confidence by the people of Haiti in his ability to actually organize free, fair, transparent, and inclusive elections. There's been a great deal of delay, and the people, the groups have made it very clear, so long as Ariel Henry is in power, we were not going to have peace in the country, right? And we also have to understand that these gangs, these weapons, again, they're not coming from Haiti because there has been arms embargo on Haiti for the past 2 decades. And the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has made this very clear that they understand that some of these guns are coming from South Florida. Obviously, it's not intentional that the U.S. is sending these guns to Haiti, but they're being shipped, through cars, cargoes, boxes, you name it, right? So we know where the source of these guns are coming from. So we need to have measures in place to restrict the illicit flow of weapons into the country. And secondly, we also know that this crisis we're dealing with in Haiti is further exacerbated by the economic crisis that also exists. You have people who are unemployed, young people, even older folks who are unemployed. So it's easy for them to be recruited by these various groups to cause harm and create ruckus in the country. So for you to really address this crisis in the country, it has to be, you have to address it from different angles, not just from the security aspect, but also from the economic aspect. People need jobs, right? So if you're gonna take the guns away from them, you need to replace it with employment.
Is that probably why, these armed groups are against the deployment of the multinational force, the one that's been put together in Kenya?
Yeah, first and foremost, I applaud President Ruto for taking this bold stance and standing in solidarity with the people of Haiti. It shows the spirit of Pan-Africanism. It shows Black unity. And I think while there are many challenges, it's also an opportunity for Kenya to show to the rest of the world what a prosperous collaboration could look like between 2 Black nations. As I said earlier during this interview, Amarachi, previous interventions have failed. Just about every effort have failed in the country. So people are, of course, very skeptical as to what is it that President Ruto and these and members of his police force can bring to the country. But I think with proper guidance, with proper advising, with a proper team, President Ruto can be very well successful. And just recently, the president of Benin, Patrice Talon, has indicated that he is willing to provide 2,000 officers, right, to the mission. A financial commitment to supporting the mission. So has Kenya and a number of other countries. So I think collaboratively, I think it can be successful. but we need to have the right people at the table for this to really be successful.
We'll continue monitoring developments in Haiti. And Joanna, thank you for joining us to explain some of the naughty aspects of this situation. Thank you again. But we're just one day away from this year's celebration of the International Women's Day. So we thought we'd start off celebrations of the day itself. Invest in Women is the theme for this year. Accelerate progress with a focus on addressing economic disempowerment, while the campaign theme for the year is Inspire Inclusion. What better way to invest in women than to also provide them a platform to showcase a bit early? The theme for this year's celebration is achievements, and that's where the Wikimedia Foundation comes in. It's a non-profit part of Wikipedia that has launched a new campaign titled Wikipedia Needs More Women. It calls on everyone to help close the knowledge gap on Wikipedia and beyond, thereby helping to change the statistics by getting involved in initiatives and events happening around the world. Joining us now is co-founder of Igala Wikimedia Community in Abuja, Agnes Abba. Agnes is also a space scientist at the National Space Research and Development Agency in Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, from where she joins us. Agnes, it's great to have you on The World today.
Okay, thank you, Amarachi, for having me.
Maybe you should begin by speaking a bit more on what the Wikimedia Needs More Women campaign is about and when it launches.
Okay, thank you. So, Wiki Needs Women campaign. It's a campaign that started in the month of March. That is this month, and the major what Wiki Needs Women strive to achieve is it's the initiative about Wikimedia Needs More Women campaign that started because of the underrepresentation of women biography on Wikipedia. So as we all know, Wikipedia being one of the world's largest knowledge resource, which is supposed to be represented with all diversity of humanity. But as it stands today, there is not an equitable amount of information about women on Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects. So this month, which is the month of March, the Women History Month, that's the Women History Month, the Wikimedia Foundation, that's a non-profit organization that operates the Wikimedia project, launched the campaign, that's Wiki campaign, which needs more women. So Wikipedia needs more women, and calling on everyone to close the knowledge gap on Wikipedia and beyond. And also helps to change the statistics by getting involved in those initiatives and events happening around the world. Yes, so the campaign started this month, and we're encouraging everybody to join the campaign. Over to you, Amarachi.
Yes, and I'm just wondering, why it is important to feature more women on Wikipedia and why it is important to have more women telling their own stories.
Okay, so it's very important to, for women to tell their story because the statistic of women on Wikipedia is very, very low compared to men, right? So there are not enough representation of women on Wikipedia. There is women biographies on Wikipedia. There are so many campaigns around Wikipedia which features women, which is trying to close that gap. For some of that, we have Arts and Feminism, Wiki Needs Women. Then we have Women Do News. That's one of the particular business I belong to. I'm a board member of Women Do News. So basically, what we do there is we try to close the gap of making sure women journalists are well represented on Wikipedia. That's the ones that are really doing notable work. So we make sure they have a well and correct and good article representation of article on Wikipedia. Yes.
Yeah, I also failed to mention that, Agnes, you're also a journalist. So I imagine that this will also be important to you and I. Interestingly, we're both women. So is there a process to verifying, these stories and doing background checks on them to ensure that, the right type of information is out there for women to find, either on persons of interest or on issues?
Okay, yes, there are processes to verify information and conduct background checks on Wikipedia. Generally, Wikipedia operates on the model of collaborative editing, where volunteers contribute and edit content, right? But however, there are mechanisms in place to ensure the accuracy and reliability of information. Take, for example, we have Wikipedia requires all information to be verifiable based on reliable source, right? So contributors are encouraged to provide citations to reputable sources, such as from books, academic journals, news articles, and other credible publications to support the information they add to the articles they have created on Wikipedia. Take, for example, I have maybe a notable person is my relation, maybe my brother, my sister, or anything. I know a particular information, I have a particular first-hand information about the person, but I cannot just write about the person because I have an information about the person. So basically what I do first is I have to go online, get reliable source, and make sure the sources are correct. Then once I write about the person, I cite the article to the particular book, a news article, or an academic journal, which is related to that particular article. Then another thing that we have to use to verify if the article is correct is Wikipedia. On Wikipedia, we are a large community of editors who monitors changes to articles. So this community of contributors now, that's editors, they review edits for accuracy, neutrality, and adherence to Wikipedia content policy. Yeah. So any information that is questionable or lack proper sourcing may be flagged for further review and removed from Wikipedia. So everything has to be done properly. You cannot just go on Wikipedia and write anything you want to write like that. Yes, Amarachi.
Yeah, so Agnes, just very quickly, I'm sure many women who are watching this interview are wondering how they can get on Wikimedia. How is that possible?
Okay, to get on Wikipedia is just an easy process. So the first thing you have to do is, the first step is you have to create a Wikipedia account. So once you have your Wikipedia account, there is a process to creating the Wikipedia account. Once you log on to the Wikipedia app or the URL, you go to the create edit, which is the link on the top right corner. So once you've created an account, you have to familiarize yourself with the Wikipedia policy, guidelines, and editing practices. So Wikipedia has a comprehensive set of tutorials also and help pages which is designed to guide new editors through the editing process. So once you have familiarized yourself with the policies, because you cannot just go and start editing, in as much as Wikipedia is a voluntary editing. Anybody can edit, you can edit, I can edit, anybody can edit. So once you have familiarized yourself, you can start editing Wikipedia. Yes, and once you're editing Wikipedia, you have to make sure that your sources is correct. You are citing a reliable source.
Yeah, it's important to emphasize that, isn't it, Agnes? Because a lot of information is out there for people to grasp and to devour, especially on personalities and so on. Agnes, thank you so much for joining us on The World Today.
Thank you very much,
and happy International Women's Day to you. Forgot to say that.
Happy Women's Day to you too, Amarachi.
Former President Donald Trump challenging rival President Joe Biden to a televised debate. And now confident Trump says he would take part in a TV forum with Biden anytime, anywhere, any place, saying it is important for the good of our country that Joe Biden and I debate issues that are so vital to America and the American people. The Biden campaign has responded saying that the former president is simply thirsty for attention and struggling to expand his appeal. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden is set to deliver a State of the Union address, an opportunity for him to highlight his successes and chart a path forward. It's going to be his first State of the Union speech since he announced his re-election bid last year, making it a pivotal moment for the president as the Democrat faces fierce criticism both from within his party and from the Republican opposition. Channels Television's Washington correspondent Maria Bird joins us now. Maria, President Biden has a number of issues to address in the State of the Union address. A low-hanging fruit, however, would be the war in Gaza. How is he likely to defend America's involvement and the military aid?
Well, you are exactly correct. It is going to be a focus in on Gaza, the war in Gaza. As we know, this has been a much debated topic in the U.S. and especially for the administration, as there has been a strong support of Israel. But we know over the last few days we have seen very extreme images of what's happening in Gaza with, as you talk about starvation with children and babies and some of the healthcare needs that are not able to be addressed and some of the things that are making it to Gaza and never making it through the border and never making it through security measures. And so those are going to be some major issues and some of the relief efforts that many private organizations and humanitarian organizations have worked toward with the U.S. To ensure or to try to provide Palestinians in Gaza with some sort of support, especially for some of those very critical humanitarian devastating crises that are occurring.
Yeah, and the other issues would be the Russia-Ukraine war. There's also immigration, the rising cost of living, also crime increasing in the United States. How do Americans, how do they rate the president in this almost 4 years that he's been in power?
This last State of the Union is going to be extremely critical for him because I think that there is a mixed feeling. I think there is some concern around what will happen with the Republican nominee, especially now that we know Nikki Haley has dropped out of the race. And for those who are definitely against the former president winning the election, those who are in support of President Biden, but might not be as secure and as comfortable with some of the policy decisions or some of what's happened over the last few years, especially to talk about the economy, the war, so many issues that have come out over these last few months and obviously through most of his administration. So his response to all of those issues you mentioned, gun violence, economy, the wars, Ukraine, Russia, all of the additional aid the U.S. has provided across the world while we're in some economic crises right here at home, I think are going to be critical. I think many Americans are going to be watching to see how he responds, and that is going to be a referendum for his next election.
Yeah, and a possible presidential debate that Trump is challenging him to. I think they only met about twice, I believe, in the last time they both faced each other in a presidential debate at the 2020 elections. Do you think that the president will eventually give in to Trump's challenge for this debate?
Well, we've seen...
I do apologize. We're having technical issues with the connection with Maria. We'll try to reconnect with her and, of course, have that conversation concluded. In the meantime, Nigerians in the United Arab Emirates have been reacting to the debunked news now that the UAE government has lifted its travel ban on citizens of the country. A news first received with cautious optimism is a painful reminder of harsh realities many have been living with for 3 years. Our correspondent, Mayowa Adegoke, who is in the UAE, tells us more.
Nigerians in Nigeria, the now debunked news of the UAE lifting its visa ban on the country may be brushed aside as yet another widely circulated fake news. But for Nigerians residents in the Middle Eastern nation, the reality is quite different.
People here are wishing this news to be true because it's almost 3 years that the visa has been banned. So many people have gone back to Nigeria, and some that are here are not finding it easy in any way.
Yes, Nigerians are frustrated because it's been a while, it's been a long time now, and everybody is waiting for good news, and once we hear something and we realize that it's false. So definitely Nigerians are frustrated. I'm frustrated as well.
When I said the news yesterday, I said myself that my own belief is that when I see the flights bringing people to Dubai and take them back to Nigeria, that is when I believe that we have this.
Realizing yesterday that the news was false, it really dashed my hope, beyond what I've ever felt before. because it seemed really verified yesterday. So the level of disappointment now is like worse than I think I've ever had.
The misinformation has been traced to President Tinubu's special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, who now says the fake document announcing the visa ban removal has not been authorized by any of the governments involved. Nonetheless, the visa ban is not the only news circulating in the Nigerian community here.
I woke up today to the news that kind of amnesty, people that were having overstay and abscond, especially on their visas, abscond has been removed for everyone.
Failure to renew one's resident or tourist visa can lead to being categorized by a visa sponsor as an absconded individual. Many Nigerians have been categorized as such as a result of the restrictions. Hence, the update on this, confirmed by multiple sources, is good news.
They just want everybody to have this visa. That's why they removed the abscond. So that people that still have the food to stay, people that they are going to go, it's two ways. That you want to stay, you have removed the abscond, go for it. You want to leave, you have removed the abscond so I can, you won't pay any money if you take the pass and just leave the country. So
even if the abscond is removed and the person do not apply or change their status to a new visa, the abscond will be reversed and the cycle continues until they are able to get a new visa.
On the flip side, the UAE Embassy in Nigeria has been in several meetings with various Nigerian government officials and agencies, as shared via its official Instagram account. There's yet to be any statement about the visa or travel ban. Safe to say Nigerians in the UAE will have to keep waiting and hoping for the news they eagerly want to hear. From Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, Maya Wadegoke for Channels Television News.
Let's make a zip line now to Russia, where the World Youth Festival has officially ended in the Black Sea resort of Sochi. President Vladimir Putin addressed thousands of Russian and foreign participants on Wednesday, a closing ceremony of the festival. He told them he addressed the youths, encouraging them, trying to remind them, of their youth. The closing ceremony, called the Bonfire Story of the Future, took the festival participants back to their childhood and youth. They gathered around the fire in the atmosphere of evening meetings, close and understandable to all world cultures. They also remembered how the week of the World Youth Festival in Russia went, the WYF, beg your pardon. Participants then hugged and expressed words of gratitude towards each other. At the end of the show, though, popular hits in Hindi, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian were performed by performers and artists. It's always very colorful to watch. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ivani.